Welcome to this recording with both Hannah and Sarah King today. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
This is your recording on how the moon can help you with your health, your hormones, and your manifestation. So, we've actually been talking about this since 2018. Sarah was going through some of her notes and getting up some of her old images of the moon. And Sarah, do you remember right in the beginning we used to call ourselves moon sisters before we called ourselves anything else?
Yeah, it's sort of the first birthing of our business, wasn't it? We had an Instagram page called Moon Sisters, and it was all done in black and white images. And we just speak about the new moon and the full moon, and it's evolved all the way to today's creation of the Holistic Health Collective. So, welcome to
Yeah.
this 6 year old baby now, five baby.
Absolutely. So today we're giving you all the basic information on the moon. So if you're brand new to any kind of moon talk or have heard a little bit about it and want to know a little bit more, you're going to be finding out about how the moon influences nature, right? So it influences the tides, animal behavior, and even our emotions. And if you sync with its cycles, you can be more in flow in life rather than having to force things. And it can help us to process our feelings and release negativity and create a space for healing. And has been used in many traditions and rituals across the world for centuries and centuries now to help enhance practices like meditation, manifestation, and intuitive work as well. We'll talk definitely a bit more about psychic abilities and how the moon can help with that. But this is who it may be good for. So when we were really first starting out with the moon, I would say that we were really interested in natural health and natural healing and healing through nutrition as well. So, if that's you, this is going to suit you. If you've heard a little bit about the moon, maybe you're curious about it or you like astrology or seasonal living or even moonology, particularly if you like magic or witchy things, or if you're just moving away from things like hyper productivity and pushing and doing and more, and you want to like slow down, surrender, trust, live in more of a rhythmical kind of way, then this recording is really, really going to help you with that. And what we really want to call out is it's especially for you if you ever feel alone in this world, if you ever feel like there's a lot to do, you're struggling to do things by yourself, maybe you're struggling under the responsibility of um, the weight of the world on your shoulders and you want to run away at times in your life, the moon can help you with that. And let's go through a few things that can actually help you with. So, the practicalities of working with the moon and why you may want to, so the benefits. It can help you with creating and fulfilling dreams. That's been a really big part of our moon journey, and we'll share a little bit of our personal stories with you. But I really feel like a deeper connection and understanding yourself at a much deeper level. And because you understand yourself at a deeper level, you have more compassion and understanding for others as well. So it can help you with your emotions, but also your physical symptoms, which is definitely where I started with my moon journey. Mentioned there if you're feeling like a little bit lonely or a loss of connection to yourself, or even other like-minded people, moon work can really help you with that. Sarah's found it really helpful in the work with anxiety, so she'll be speaking more about that. But generally, it can help you with like the rhythm of staying healthy, self-care, looking after yourself, remembering to look after yourself, understanding what's going on with your sleep around the full moon as well, letting go of what is not serving you and recognizing what's not serving you, but also stepping into taking more personal responsibility for your health, your emotions, your relationships, which is where all your power lies. As soon as you stop blaming everyone else in life and you take personal responsibility for the part that you've played, and the moon really helps you to do that on particular phases. Then that's what it can help with. So they're all the benefits of working with the moon. Have I missed any out there, Sarah?
And definitely menstrual cycles and the different phases of a woman's life. And in fact, we were reading about the different stages of men's lives before, but we've been using it for our own menstrual cycles and that transition from perimenopause years into the menopause and beyond as well. So it's a huge one for that. It can even help with things like gardening, but We don't
Yeah.
go into that one yet.
We're
So
not going to cover that on this. This is the basic introduction, but actually going to break this down on more episodes so you can dive deeper into working with the moon in the different phases. But we thought we'd start with an introduction of kind of like our story, how we got interested in it. So you may or may not know that I studied to become a naturopathic nutritionist. And part of that learning was about, I'm gonna say like returning to a natural way of living. And part of that is syncing with the moon cycle, specifically for women, but it is important for men as well. And I didn't know anything about the moon, although what I would say my experiences with the moon is if I think back to my younger years, I was kind of a little bit interested in magic. I definitely looked in awe and wonderment at the moon and the stars. And I did have a particular experience with my husband when we were in our dating years, I guess. And we wasn't living together. And, when love's very new and young and you really want to be with that person all the time. And I remember we was on a phone call and I said to him, look out at the moon. I had this moment where I said, wow, we're both looking, even though we're apart, we're both looking at exactly the same thing in the sky at the same moment. And I guess I understood that interconnectedness at that moment. So I had that kind of awe and wonder. But as I learned more about the moon, when I studied it as a nutritionist, I found more about every moon is linked to different body parts. And we can support our body more during the full moon, and also things may come up from us on a full moon. So maybe more pain in the body, or maybe more emotional turbulence. And what I noticed was this was really, really true for me. And so I got really, really interested. And I remember I said to my nutrition teacher at the time, I'm really interested in joining moon circles. How could I find out about where that may be in my local area? And she said to me, well, why don't you just start one? Which kind of made me laugh because I thought, well, I wouldn't know how to run that. But I told my loving sister, Sarah, and I said, my nutrition teacher said I should start a moon circle. And I don't really know how to do that, but shall we do it together? So, Sarah, you tell us sort of from there how that experience was for you, or why you were drawn to it, or why you said yes in the first place.
I think I could see how much the naturopathic nutrition was working for you. And
Yeah.
we were both actually quite into our yoga at the time. I think you'd done your yoga teacher training or you were doing it, and I was in the studio a lot. So there was this sort of evolving of consciousness happening anyway.
Yeah.
And as a child, I'd always looked up at the moon and the stars and was into astrology and had very much left that as mystical hocus pocus as I'd stepped into a hyper productive and very anxious personality type. And you met your naturopathic nutritionist teacher on a summer solstice retreat that I come to. So there must have been some interconnectedness there. So when you mentioned, oh, I could do something with the moons and this might help us, it was just a natural yes. And we had no idea what we were doing. We just knew that we were going to meet on a full moon in person and we were going to perform some form of ritual, which we didn't really have any guidelines, although I did a few internet searches and I came across Yasmin Boland, who's an astrologist and a moonologist. And I think may have bought her diary or just gone on to listen to some of her teachings. And we
Mm.
few journal prompts and we'd kind of light a candle and some incense when we gathered,
Yeah.
and we'd look at these soul inquiries or journal prompts, and it was partly magical and partly very uncomfortable for us, wasn't it, because it was the first time we'd done inner work together.
Yeah.
And I think I used to get the giggles like that, oh, I don't belong here, and something's going to be uncovered, and that there was something bigger, that we were doing it together and not just on our own. And of course, as sisters, we often carry the same sort of challenge.
Wounds. Core wounds.
Core wounds, for those of you that are into knowing things about stress and trauma and resolving that. And so we sat every full moon and we saw patterns forming. And for you, I think it was highlighted more in physical pain in your body and
Yeah.
patterns of that coming up. And for me, it was definitely anxiety heightening, sleep being affected, and relationships being more in disharmony around the full moon. So
Yeah.
we were able to catch these patterns, and before they blew up or got heightened, we were able to put some really simple self-care techniques into practice. For example, upping our hydration and upping our magnesium, which we'll talk about why that's really impactful. And we had a specific point where we'd come and meet. So, as friends or family, you go, oh, we should, you go for a walk or a spa day and you go, oh, we should do this once a month. And somehow time slips by and it's
Yeah.
4 months before you do it. But because we were saying every full moon and that was coming, you can see it growing in the sky, we would always put the date in our diary and we would always meet. I don't think there was many full moons where we haven't gathered together.
No, the energy of a full moon is lasts about 3 days. So there's some sort of starting information for you there. So it's the day of the full moon and it's the day before and the day after. So almost like a 3 day portal where if you're a bit busy on the day, which we would have been sometimes, we would have met on or around. So I think that's how we managed to do it. And I think from memory, we was living I was gonna say I can't remember where I was living actually now when we first started it. I was gonna say half an hour away from each other, but no, it was more than that.
I was,
But it was, huh?
yeah, we were quite close to each other then.
Yeah, we were quite close then. So it was possible to meet. And I think remembering back, it felt quite sacred. Like often when you meet in life, like Sarah said, with a family member or a friend, it can be very busy, can't it? You've gone somewhere, a coffee shop, I don't know, a cinema, a show, a spa, and there's like lots of other people, and it's very much more surface level. Hi, how are you? What have you been up to? And like, but there's not really a lot of depth to it. And like Sarah said, it was quite uncomfortable for us because we were kind of like revealing deeper truths to one another, but almost to ourselves, I'd say, Sarah, as well. Like we're revealing it to ourselves and giggling through. Um, and that allowed us to pick up on patterns, but it also felt quite sacred because we were creating this quiet space. And I do remember leaving, you feel quite nourished because you're not necessarily finishing later. From memory, I think we might have met after work or something like that. And it only took about an hour or so. So I think it was a meeting where you left and you felt nourished because you'd had that soul connection with yourself and then with each other. And then you were, as I said, you were learning these deeper truths, but you're doing it in this sacred way where it felt a bit magical and special with the candle and the incense. And I think we used to burn things, didn't we, Sarah? And it all felt a bit witchy and like, yeah.
We'd always go moon bathing afterwards. I think we'd do the ritual and then we'd go for a short walk, just to go and say hi to the moon, and we'd moon bathe, and that's very healing in itself.
Absolutely. And what Sarah said there about meeting every month, the moon is a cosmic timer. And so, in the busyness of life, the full moon reminds us to let go on a full moon and set new intentions on a new moon. And oh, yeah, we should say a little bit about your vision board and that, Sarah, and around the new moon and what it allowed us to call in. So, for anyone who's interested in manifestation or, you creating your reality, the new moon allows you to set powerful intentions. It's like the beginning of a new cycle. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Sarah, and how it looked for you in your vision board?
Yeah, I'd love to. And let's talk about if this is completely new, or maybe you've heard about the phases of the moon, and it's always good to get that reminder that the moon travels around the earth and we get a new cycle around every 29 and a half days. So it's very closely linked to that Gregorian calendar. Um, each month being around 30 to 31 days, give or take. So we get 12 or sometimes 13 moon cycles in a year. So we get the new moon phase, which is when we don't see the moon in the sky and it's full of twinkly stars. And that's kind of time you look up at the starry sky and make a wish, isn't it? And it heralds the start of new beginnings, a new month or a new cycle. And then in the northern hemisphere, the moon will grow bigger towards the right side. So you get the crescent moon, and then you get that quarter moon, and then you get the full moon. And this very much represents a building energy. They call it a waxing moon phase, where it grows from new to full and it's building. So you're building on your intentions. And then from the full moon back to the new moon again, you get a waning phase and it gets smaller to the left. So you can really look up every night and see what's going on in the world and where should I be with my energy and my emotions and my intentions. And they say that that new moon is a really good time to draw inwards and check in with your own needs and where you're going in life, what intentions you want to set, and what you're feeling. And
Yeah.
then as the energy grows towards the full moon, you should start to feel full. You should start to feel full of emotion, perhaps more full of energy. Many of you will know on a full moon, it's more difficult to sleep.
Mm.
Children may be a little bit more hyperactive, animals certainly a bit more energetic. So there's this energy where we're drawn out into community. And at the time of the full moon, tribes of women would always gather together, and actually men need to be alone on a full moon, and we can speak about more to the hormone aspects of that.
And I'd just like to add there, Sarah, about the word, because people will resonate with this and they always go, oh, yeah, when I tell them. This is where the word lunatic comes from, because the moon can make you like a little bit loony. But there are studies that show like a lot of people who work in the police force will tell you like they go to more call outs on a full moon. There's more crimes committed on a full moon, and it's the same with the emergency rooms. They A lot of people there won't even know the studies, but they say, oh yeah, we're always busier on a full moon. There's always more accidents and injuries and that kind of thing. So people in our society are seeing the links without even really knowing anything about it, which I find really, really exciting. So it can send us a bit loony. And what I found as a mum is a lot of mums will recognise, oh yeah, my kids, they can never sleep, or they're always really crazy on a full moon, because it is easier for us to see in others what's going on than always put the spotlight of attention on ourselves. But there's probably something going on for us too. And then when we can start to understand that and it starts to make sense, that's when we can start to look after the body a little bit more in these cyclical ways, knowing, oh, a full moon's coming, maybe I will X, Y, and Z, which we'll talk about some of those ways in a little bit. So I did interject there, Sarah. What was you going to continue to say?
Yeah, that full moon phase. So it's often associated with that sort of uh, fullness, but this can be when you start to work with a full moon phase, it can be a fullness of gratitude, a fullness of your experience, a fullness of feeling like you've been working towards creating a life that feels rich and abundant and overflowing. So those difficult to hold emotions like anxiety or sleeplessness or panic or irritation, when you work with the moon and you start to develop more self-care, can soon change into I'm overflowing with love, I'm overflowing with happiness, I've got all this abundant energy. And this is the time to release. In ritual, we used to do it with a forgiveness ceremony, or releasing emotions that we're holding that we feel no longer serve us, like, for example, resentment or difficult emotions. And from that full moon phase, you would then let the energy fade. You start to surrender. So you wouldn't be necessarily working so hard on those intentions. You would have already done that in the first half of the phase, but you would have just been letting go, going with the flow and releasing. So there's this beautiful building up and then releasing energy. And this happens with the tides. So that's why the moon and the tides are so linked. And this is very linked to our hormone cycles as well, particularly as women. So if we liken it to the first half of the phase, of estrogen rising, so this would be your follicular phase to ovulation. There's this
Mhm.
feeling where basically what this is doing in nature is asking you to go out and get pregnant, to go and socialize, to go and put your energy out into your community and create. And
Yeah,
then as the estrogen drops, then this is time for you to go in and tend to your own needs.
yeah,
And you can see this in the plumping of the skin and the hair being full in that first stage of the cycle. And then suddenly the energy maybe starts to plummet. You feel a little bit more stiff, a bit more achy, and perhaps your emotions might feel a little bit more difficult because society asks you to be very outward still, but your body, your emotions, your energy is asking you to draw in. So there's lots of ways to link this. But you asked about the new moon intentions,
yeah.
those manifestors. So Hannah and I first started meeting on the full moon and we got quite hooked quite quickly. And I started reading a lot about manifestations. And we started to vision board on a new moon, or we started to write down what it is we want to call into our life. And I had been sitting with the idea of living by the sea. I was living in London at the time, and retraining as a massage therapist, something more holistic, getting into yoga more. And I suddenly saw the new moon phase as a time to take action, to like, I could break this down into manageable chunks, 1 month at a time. And I'd never really sat with, what is it I really want and how am I going to get there? How am I going to make it happen? And like Hannah said, the moon phases can be very empowering when we take ownership of our own emotions and where we want to take our life. A lot of women will give their life over to other people's needs. And so the new moon phase can be a time to check in with your own needs as well. And so I put this vision board up and I would look at it every morning as I come down to do yoga practice. And I was thinking, right, Hannah and I are going to be getting together in a few weeks. What am I going to say I've actually done towards working towards these dreams? So it was great accountability. And quite quickly, actually, I would say within about 14 or 15 months, I'd actually made the move from London to the coast, signed up for a training, left my job. It was quite galvanizing and it was quite quick for me as well. So I think working with the moon energies can be really transformative.
So you was like consciously creating your life at that point. And this is the nice thing about the new moon is if you're saying that you really want something and then you come back to your time or you come back to a new moon ceremony and then you check in, what have I done? And you haven't done anything. And you look at that without judgment because it's not about judging yourself and shaming yourself. And you can just reflect like, oh, I just let life get in the way, or I just let life get busy and I'm not actually focusing on what's really important to me. Or sometimes it might be, well, is that what I really wanted, or was that just something that I thought I wanted? If I'm not actually moving towards it, let me just have a little check in and see. And so I love Sarah's example there, and I'll give a little one for myself. But around that time, I think that the moon was starting to allow me to take more actions with more trust. So we and most Westerners overthink so much. We overthink every single decision. And a lot of living in trust comes through taking an action and actually not knowing the answers before you make that decision, or making decisions that don't even make logical sense, but they're making sense from your heart, and you start to trust that more, which means you start to create a life that you love. And I remember at the time I was really into, and I still love him, Tony Robbins. He's kind of like an American life coach, if you like. And I wanted to go to one of his seminars, and I hadn't really spent that kind of money before. I think it was about £800 for the ticket. But I wanted to take my husband, so I wanted to buy me a ticket and my husband a ticket to go for the weekend. And actually, Sarah, that really feeds into something that we were just speaking about this morning, which will be a topic of another recording, which is women living in fear of changing and expanding and growing more into their authentic selves, and being scared that they are going to lose friends or their partner's not going to love them anymore and leaving themselves small. And this is actually why I wanted to take my husband's Tony Robbins. I wanted him to start growing alongside me. And I thought this would be a great way to do it. And actually, it was because it was really helpful for him to hear this kind of information from another man. I think it had a lot more credibility for a man to see it from a man, and a man who was like the living, breathing epitome of the work on stage. And from an outside perspective, Tony Robbins may come across like quite, American, let's say, but actually he's deeply spiritual. And when you go to his events, you'll find out about that. And he's very much into mindset. You have to do fire walking, for example, walking over burning hot coals. And you can only do that and protect yourself with the right kind of mindset. And so I wanted to go, and I was sort of getting into more of this moon work of trust and surrender. And what I thought I'd do was I'd buy the tickets. I didn't have the money at the time, and I put it on my credit card, which felt like a really big, scary amount to put on my credit card as a mum of two young children. So not a huge amount of income to pay it off. How was I going to do that? Was I being irresponsible? But I had a get out clause, right? Which was you could get a refund on the tickets if you cancelled whatever 30 days before or something. And that's how I allowed myself to do it. And I was on holiday in America. I was running a business at the time. It was an interior design business, which I was kind of wrapping up because I was starting the nutrition business. And I had a call, a very unexpected call from England. So I answered, and someone asked me if I was interested in selling my business, which was like I hadn't advertised it. It was totally out of the blue. It was like such a shock. And I just thought, yeah, like the short story of the short version is it paid more than paid for the tickets, right? And I was like, that I didn't know that money was coming. I literally had to take the action first, and then yeah, and trust first, and then everything fell into place afterwards. And I'll share another special thing about this story. When I gave my husband the tickets, it was a Christmas Day Christmas present, and I think I'd put in a box. I think I'd written Tony Robbins on a piece of paper and I'd cut it up all into little squares, and he had to try and arrange the tickets. Or I'd done something sweet like this is exciting, and he cried when I gave him the present, and he's never cried when I've given him a present before. He doesn't cry often, like most men. And I asked him what it was that had touched him so much, and he said he'd never had anyone spend that kind of money on a present for him before, and it felt very, very special. And when we was at that event, I'll carry on with that story. He cried every single day, and he said to me he doesn't ever remember feeling as happy. And I think it was free. I don't think he used the word free, but I think that's what it was for him. He tapped right back into freedom of expression. You have to do a lot of jumping up and down and a lot of singing and a lot of dancing, but everyone's doing it. And it's so much fun and it gives you so much energy. And when you're tired and you've been sitting down listening for ages, it gets you all back up and jumping up and down again. And yeah, it was very touching and moving. So that's just an example of how the moon helped me more with trust and flow. And actually, now I look back, it was a bit controlling of me to get in those tickets to help his spiritual development, personal development. But actually, it worked out brilliantly. And I really feel that it put him on the path with me for this love of learning and expanding and becoming better, not from a place that you're not good enough already. We're all good enough already, but from a place that you want to become more of who you're meant to be in this life and not just survive anymore. And I think that's a repeating theme for us, Sarah, with the moon, that it's less surviving and more thriving, and the steps of releasing on a full moon what's not serving you and calling in what you want on a new moon again and again and again and again every month of the year. And having that sacred time to yourself really allows you to step into becoming more of who you was always meant to be. Woo, that felt powerful.
Yeah, and I'd love to add on. I have a sticky note on my computer, and I read it again this morning, and it says, why are we so reluctant to pursue the moments that make the earth shift beneath our feet? As Einstein said, behind the perception of our senses, worlds are hidden of which we are unaware, and that we are ritually starved. So just let that land, ritually starved, and we are. And I think coming back to sit in a moon circle, or we call them moon ceremonies, with little mini rituals of making a fire, lighting a candle, writing our emotions down so that they're flowing out of their body, out of our head, onto the page, and then seeing them burn, seeing that transformation. It brought us back to the core of us. And like Hannah said, each moon, as we burnt away these layers of resistance, we were able to be more authentically us, to the place where we now hold moon circles in person and online, and we're holding a bigger group of women who go forth and see those patterns in their own life. And we do it in quite a structured way. We get them to look at particular elements of their health, for example, their sleep, their creativity, their hormone balancing, what else are we looking at? Energy, particularly, is an important one.
Menstrual cycles.
Menstrual cycles and emotions. So these are things that really shape and form our life, ladies. And we see these patterns where we come to clash perhaps with other people because we feel a little bit depleted, we feel overworked, we feel undernourished. And then we can see, what can we do this cycle? What can we put in place to take care of ourselves so that we get to live in more harmony with everybody else? And it's not overwhelming. We get the course of the year and we get each astrological sign, which the moon moves through every 29 and a half days, to look at different elements of our life and our health. And we've got a wonderful list of which astro sign connects to which emotion and which body part. And then we share with our group through our naturopathic advice, through me as a breath coach and a trauma-informed somatic coach, and nature lovers, really, what could we do this cycle to nourish ourselves and look after ourselves. And I think even if we sat in circle and we didn't share any of that, I think just the fact that we come together and we all say, yeah, this one's been challenging, or no, this one's been okay, and we witness each other, is so healing in itself. And this is, like I mentioned before, what tribes always did. They always came together. The women came together at the full moon. And so, how might this show up for you as a modern woman? It might start to feel like life is getting very busy, very overwhelming. Suddenly, your sleep feels a bit scattered, your sleep feels off, and you can't sleep, and your mind feels very scattered. And this is the point where you feel like, I need to run away from my life. Something needs to change, something needs to give. Anyone familiar with that? It's normally the time of the full moon,
Mm.
the new moon, and it's an invitation to take that sacred pause and pull back and perform some kind of ritual to connect yourself, to connect with yourself and with nature.
Yeah. And I think building on what Sarah said there, can you still hear me? Yes. Okay, Sarah, these in. A lot of value that our community have found is coming together. So Sarah said earlier, men need time by themselves. They benefit from having time by themselves on a full moon. And women actually benefit from gathering on a full moon, like they did in the red tents. And it really, really helps out hormonal balance and our need for connection with other women. And what I would say about women in our community who do gather with us is they see the shares and the authenticity from other women saying, like, whatever it may be. Sometimes it's what we would say is positive and sometimes negative, good, bad. There's no such thing really, but that's how it feels, right? That things feel hard at the moment, and other people will say, yeah, for me too. And then they might notice, because there's different, the moon goes through different sign every month, and sometimes it's an air sign, sometimes a fire sign, the four different elements. And they might notice, oh, on a fire sign I feel this and on an air sign I feel that. And there's value in other people sharing, because sometimes our own emotions can be quite hidden from us. So when someone else shares, it's like a reflection for us, that we can reflect on ourselves and understand ourselves deeper through their sharing. So I think it was about 5 years ago when we first started our online women's health membership called the Holistic Health Circle. Sarah wanted to share a lot of her yoga and breath work. I wanted to share a lot of my naturopathic advice to help women with their health heal naturally. And we couldn't leave the moon out that, could we, Sarah? We was like, we have to bring, it's been so beneficial for us. We've got to bring full moon and new moon ceremonies into this. So we've been running those online as a group for 5 years now, which is unbelievable. When we say that, we've both got a big smile on our face. And a lot of the time women say to us, it's like the work that they didn't know that they needed. And it's like the favorite part is like coming to those ceremonies or catching them up on replay as well. And so Sarah mentioned that every moon has a different energy, and they're actually related to different body parts. So I thought I'd give you a few here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to print them off and make them into just a simple download, because unless you've got pen and paper and I read the whole list out now, it's going to be a lot for you to remember. But I want to give you an example. A Taurus moon is related to the throat, lymphatic system, and teeth. And what that means when we're in a Taurus moon is they're the body parts to really pay attention to and love on and look after. And then we move into Pisces, which is more about the feet, right? So it's about the feet and ankles. And Cancer is about the liver, gallbladder, and stomach. And what this allows us to do, it's a little bit like seasonal eating. It's like saying you haven't got to do everything in 1 month. If you focus on these body areas this month, this is going to have the most benefit and will support you throughout the year. And it's the same with the emotions. So different emotions are related to different moons. So the Aries moon is related to creativity and inspiration. The Taurus is self-expression and speaking the truth. And so we can practice those things. When we're in a Taurus moon, we can go, right, okay, where have you been holding back lately? Where is it that you need to speak your truth? And maybe you can do it in a safe way where you could practice doing it in ceremony with us here, or you could just tell your partner, or maybe you could just tell a friend. And then you can build upon that kind of energy and step in more into your truth. So, Sarah, is there anything else that we want to share about the moon? I think I might just say something about the tides and how it influences the body. I think that might be helpful for people. Do you think?
Yeah, and particularly linking that to hydration and electrolyte balancing as well. So let's speak to that.
Yeah. So the cycle of the moon have a really powerful influence on your body, your mind, and your emotions, as we've already said. And that's because your body is made up of water. About, if you're hydrated, about 70%, and the brain can be even more than that. And because the moon affects the tides, it affects us as well and our nature. So the moon has a push and pull effect on the tides, and we're influenced in that way. And so it has a push and pull effect on our bodily fluids and our cells as well. So depending on how hydrated you are and how balanced your electrolytes are, that is going to affect how the moon impacts you that month. So it might cause aggravation for some people in their systems. It was for me. So when Sarah and I first met, I noticed this repeating pattern of every single full moon, something in my body flared up, and it was usually something different. But I had this one specific example where my husband and I went away for the weekend. We was going to some sort of foodie show. We both love food and exploring new ways with food. And we were walking around. I didn't notice it was a full moon at that time. But I've got a problematic right knee, which is generally normally okay. But this particular weekend, it just out of nowhere, it seemed to flare up like that. And I just couldn't walk. I couldn't be at the show anymore. I needed a walking stick or a crutch or something. I didn't have it. And it was like, I just need to be here. And then it dawned on me, oh, what's happening with the moon at the moment? So I had a little check and I was like, oh, it's the full moon. Oh no, I need some magnesium. Quick, find a health food shop. I should have brought some with me. How hydrated am I? Oh, I'm not very hydrated. I've been at this show and walking around, right? Not hydrating because you don't want to keep going to the toilet, all the things that we normally know. Oh, what I actually need right now, I know we've come to this food show, is I actually need to self-care right now. I just need to use the weekend to just lie in bed and rest and recuperate and drink water and have magnesium. What my absolute favorite way for magnesium is an Epsom salt bath, which I have regular, huge amounts of Epsom salt baths, which I find really, really helps me and my body. But I didn't have that chance when I was away. So I did find a local health food shop, get the magnesium in, which I'd always recommend if you can travel with a few key supplements, whatever your body needs can be really, really helpful. So it causes aggravation within my system. And what all that was doing was the moon was just saying, hey, these are some areas for you to focus on. It's not like, oh no, now there's another full moon and like I'm not doing well again. It's just like, hey, here's where you can focus on your self-care and looking after yourself more. So it's directing you, it's showing you where your body needs help. So if a body is lacking water, has a deficiency in potassium or magnesium, like I mentioned, then you're going to get particularly stressed. You're going to feel this strong gravitational pull from full moons or super moons or lunar eclipses. And it can affect you at a mental level as well. So some people are going to feel it more physically, some people more mentally, and actually for some it will be more emotionally as well. So I'd say the key on a full moon is to, if you're a lady, gather with other women, journal, process your emotions, and to look after yourself physically with lots of magnesium and water to help that balance in the cells. And some of the key things for the new moon are. Oh, and sorry, on the full moon, it's really nice to do a release, isn't it, as well, Sarah? What is it that is not serving you? And it might be like that month, I'd say, maybe I needed a rest that weekend, right? I didn't need to be walking around a show, so I could tune into that a little bit more. So what's not serving me is being busy at the weekends, perhaps, right? When my children were younger, I needed more of a rest. So choosing what you want to let go of. And then on the new moon, it might be journaling, setting your intentions, maybe getting your vision board out and putting it somewhere where you can see all the time, every day. And to speak in the present tense is really important as well. So no wanting, okay? There's nothing that you want, because if you want for things, that's what you get. You get the wanting of it. So you speak in the present tense, or you speak with gratitude, like, I'm so grateful that I've booked that yoga teacher training. I'm so grateful that I'm going to get to live near the sea, or that I am. You can use these words, I am. Um, and this helps to pull it towards you a little bit quicker. Is there anything that you'd add to that, Sarah?
Yeah, I think it's just bringing you back to the present moment, isn't it? And noticing where to put your energy, like Hannah said there, just drawing inwards and thinking about taking those really small self-care steps and remembering that your life has a really important purpose. And
Mm,
moon cycles can just really help you bring that back to alignment. And it's a lot of women struggle with guilt around self-care, but also they feel guilty if perhaps they feel very unwell and they have to take themselves off to bed and rest, or they have to cancel plans, because it's gone too far past their needs. Their body's kind of screaming rather than those little messages that we get. So the moon cycles can just really help you to get your health in order, do your emotional processing, notice the rising and falling of the energy, which is very natural and goes with rhythm of nature, and take care of yourself so much that you really are the best version of yourself, and everyone gets to benefit from that. So for yourself and for the community, for society, for your family, your friends, your workers. So it's a beautiful way of being in harmony with nature.
And I think I probably should add, on a physical basis, on the new moon, this is a really good time to detox. It might be that you enjoy intermittent fasting or fasting, or you might need a little break from supplements. It's a time when our body is naturally shedding, so we can support our body in that process as well. So we're not absorbing and taking on, we're actually letting go. So if you would like to we're going to put together the free download of the 12 different moons and what body parts they're related to, and the emotions that they're related to as well. Then if you are watching this, it's going to be below the video. And if you're listening to this, it's going to be in the show notes. We do meet online in our membership, the Holistic Health Circle. So we'll also drop the details of that below. If you feel like you would like to be in an online portal with women where we do actually meet live, or you can catch the recording, and you get to make like-minded friends, and you get to commit to yourself to show up every single full moon and new moon and see the changes in your life. We do also run in-person events. So Sarah and I may run events that are local to us, or we may have a retreat that's on around the time of a full or a new moon, or other seasonal celebrations as well. And you can check all of that out on our website, which is not the holistic, it's Holistic Health Collective .co.uk. We would love to hear from you. So if you've got questions about the moon, you want to hear more episodes about the moon, how it links to fertility or menstruation or hormones, or how to work in a deeper way with the moon, let us know your questions and we will create future episodes for you. And finally, if you get the free download, you will be on our mailing list, and we're actually going to be sending out an email every full moon and every new moon, talking about the energies of that moon and how you can work with it best. Thanks for joining us on YouTube today. We're getting more consistent with our content here. We've been over in our Facebook group for many years, but we want to reach a wider audience, getting this useful information out to more people now. So if you've loved this, then please subscribe to get future notifications. Sarah is committing to getting a video on every full moon and every new moon to help you with your soul's growth. And we love any interactions, any comments, and hearing from you too. Okay, see you next time.
Bye.